The night was supposed to be quiet. The convenience store was closing, and the streets were nearly empty. Only the faint glow of streetlights and the distant sound of passing cars filled the silence. She had worked a long shift and was ready to go home. But as she stepped outside and began walking past the corner near the store, she saw something that made her stop in her tracks. At first, she thought it was just two people arguing. But then the shouting turned into something darker. One man suddenly grabbed the woman and forced her to the ground. The street was empty. No witnesses. No one to help. Frozen in fear, she quickly ducked behind a nearby wall. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure the man would hear it. She didn't dare move. But then she noticed something. The man had arrived in a car. The headlights were still on, and the license plate was clearly visible. Her hands trembled as she slowly pulled out her phone. She raised it just enough to capture a photo. One quick shot, the plate number, the only clue. Moments later, the man jumped back into the car and sped away into the darkness. The street fell silent again. But what she didn't know yet was that the woman who had just been killed was the sister of one of the most dangerous men in the city, and the photo she had just taken was about to start a chain of events that would change her life forever.
If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who believes kindness still exists in this world. This is Midnight Archives, where power meets humanity.
The rain had finally stopped by the time the police arrived. Blue and red lights flashed across the empty street where the murder had taken place. The body had already been covered. The quiet corner near the convenience store was now filled with officers, yellow tape, and flashing cameras. But the young woman who had witnessed everything was already long gone. She had walked home in silence that night, her heart still racing, her mind replaying the terrifying scene again and again. Yet she barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she could see it. The struggle, the shadowy figure, the headlights of the car cutting through the darkness. And the moment she lifted her phone and took that photo, the license plate, it was the only thing she had managed to capture. The only piece of evidence that the night had even happened. She stared at the photo on her phone again the next morning. Her hands trembled slightly as she zoomed in on the image. The numbers were clear, unclear enough that anyone could read them. For a moment, she thought about going to the police, but fear quickly crept into her mind. What if the killer found out? What if the man came looking for the person who took the photo? She worked at a small convenience store. She lived alone. She had no protection. So instead, she locked the photo away on her phone and tried to pretend the night had never happened. But the city was already beginning to talk. Because the woman who had been killed that night was not just anyone. Across the city, in a tall glass building overlooking the skyline, a man stood silently beside a massive window. He wore a black suit. His beard was trimmed carefully, and faint tattoos crawled along the side of his neck. Everyone in the city knew who he was, but no one ever dared to say his name. He was simply known as the Mafia boss. The room around him was completely silent. Several men stood nearby, waiting, but none of them spoke. They were waiting for him, because only minutes earlier he had received a call that had changed everything. The Mafia boss slowly lowered his phone. His expression did not change, but the silence in the room grew heavier. Finally, one of the men spoke. "Boss, is it true?" The Mafia boss looked out across the city lights. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke quietly. "My sister is dead." The words seemed to freeze the entire room. No one moved. No one breathed. Because everyone knew what this meant. The Mafia boss turned away from the window. His eyes were calm. But beneath that calm was something far more dangerous. Rage. "Find out who did it," he said. His voice was low, controlled, but terrifying. "I want a name." The men around him nodded immediately. They already knew what would happen next. Because when someone hurt the Mafia boss's family, there was only one outcome. And somewhere across the city, a young woman working at a small convenience store had no idea that the photo sitting quietly on her phone was about to become the most important clue in the entire investigation. The next morning arrived quietly, But inside Maya's mind, nothing was quiet. The image replayed over and over again. The dark street, the scream, the gunshot, and the man. Maya stood behind the checkout counter of the small convenience store, scanning a bottle of soda for a customer, but her mind wasn't there. Her hands moved automatically while her thoughts wandered back to the night before. She remembered every detail: the cold air, the dim streetlights, the black car, Orkia and the man who pulled the trigger. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the woman's body falling to the pavement again. After the customer left, Maya leaned against the counter, rubbing her forehead. "Rough night?" her coworker asked from the snack aisle. Maya forced a small smile. "Just didn't sleep much." Her coworker shrugged and returned to stocking shelves. But Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something about last night wasn't over yet. Something inside her told her that what she witnessed mattered. A lot. Hours passed slowly. The store hummed with its usual routine. Customers coming and going, the ding of the doorbell, the hum of refrigerators. Then, around mid-afternoon, the bell above the door rang again. Ding! Maya looked up automatically. Two men walked inside. They wore dark jackets and baseball caps pulled low. Nothing unusual. Men like that came in all the time. But the moment Maya saw the first man's face, her heart stopped. For a split second, her entire body froze. It was him. Not perfectly clear, but close enough. The shape of his jaw, the way he walked, the same cold eyes. Maya quickly looked down at the register so they wouldn't notice her staring. Her pulse started racing. Her mind began connecting pieces. No, it can't be. But the closer the man walked toward the drinks fridge, the more certain she became. This was the man from last night, the one who fired the gun. Her hands trembled slightly as she organized the receipt paper on the counter, pretending to stay busy. She couldn't risk staring, but she couldn't stop watching him from the corner of her eye. The man grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge. His friend picked up a pack of gum. They walked toward the counter. Each step felt louder than the last. Thud, thud, thud. Maya swallowed. Stay calm. Act normal. The man placed the bottle on the counter. For a brief second, their eyes met. Maya felt a chill crawl down her spine. There was something about his stare. Cold, calculating, dangerous. Just this, he said casually. His voice sent another wave of recognition through her mind. Maya quickly scanned the bottle. Beep. Her hands felt stiff as she handed him the receipt. Have a good day, she said quietly. The men walked out. The bell rang again. Ding! Maya exhaled slowly. Her heart was pounding. But something else caught her attention. Through the glass window, she saw them walk toward a car parked across the street. And the moment she saw the vehicle, everything inside her snapped into place. The car. It was the same one from last night. Same dark color, same shape. Same scratch on the rear bumper. Her eyes widened. Without thinking, Maya quickly pulled out her phone. She opened the photo gallery. Her fingers scrolled until she found the picture she had taken the night before. The license plate. She zoomed in. Then she looked back outside the window. Her breath caught. It was the same plate. Every number, every letter. A cold wave of realization washed over her. She hadn't just witnessed a random crime. She had just confirmed who did it. The men climbed into the car. The engine started. And seconds later, they drove away. Maya stood frozen behind the counter. Her heart raced as the weight of what she knew settled on her shoulders. She now had something dangerous, something powerful, something that could change everything. But one question kept echoing inside her mind. Who was the woman they killed? And more importantly, who needed to know the truth? Maya looked down at the license plate photo on her phone. Her instincts told her one thing. This information didn't belong to the police. It belonged to someone else. See, someone far more dangerous. Someone who had the power to make sure those men paid for what they did. Maya didn't know it yet, but the path she was about to step onto would lead her straight to the most feared man in the city, the Mafia boss. And once she knocked on that door, there would be no turning back. Maya didn't move for a long time after the car disappeared. The street outside the convenience store returned to normal. Cars passed, pedestrians walked by, but inside Maya's chest, her heart still beat like a drum. She stared down at the photo on her phone again. The license plate, the same numbers, the same letters. There was no doubt anymore. The man who just walked into the store was the same man she saw the night before. The killer. A cold chill ran through her body. Or if for a moment Maya thought about deleting the photo, pretending she never saw anything, pretending none of this happened. It would be safer that way. Much safer. But then another thought appeared. The woman who died. Maya still remembered the fear in her voice. The way she had tried to run. The way she had begged. Someone had taken her life like it meant nothing. And now Maya had the one thing that could expose them. The truth. She looked toward the store window again. And the car was gone. But the memory of it remained burned into her mind. Maya slipped her phone into her pocket and took a deep breath. She needed answers. She needed to know who the woman was. Later that evening, when her shift ended, Maya didn't go home immediately. Instead, she sat in her small apartment living room with her laptop open. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of traffic outside. She opened the internet and began searching. Local news, crime reports, our social media posts, anything about a woman being killed near that street. For a long time, nothing appeared. Then finally, a small headline popped up on a local news site. Maya leaned forward. Her eyes scanned the article, and suddenly her stomach dropped. The victim wasn't just anyone. She was connected to someone powerful, someone dangerous, someone feared throughout the city. The article didn't mention his name directly, but the message was clear. The murdered woman was the sister of the Mafia boss. Maya slowly leaned back in her chair. The weight of the situation crashed over her. This wasn't just a crime anymore. This was war. If the Mafia boss found out who killed his sister, there would be consequences. Serious consequences. Maya stared at the screen. Her heart pounded harder. She now had something incredibly dangerous, information that could ignite a storm. She stood up and paced slowly across the room. When her mind raced with possibilities. Should she go to the police? Should she stay quiet? Should she destroy the evidence? Every option felt wrong. But then another thought came to her. If the Mafia boss was already searching for answers, then maybe the truth needed to reach him first. Maya stopped walking. Her decision was forming, but before she did anything reckless, she needed to be certain. The next day, Maya returned to work like nothing had happened. The convenience store buzzed with its usual routine. Customers buying coffee, children picking snacks, workers stopping by during lunch breaks. But Maya watched every person who walked through the door. Every face, every movement, every sound. She wasn't just a cashier anymore. She was watching, observing, waiting. And then late in the afternoon, the bell above the door rang again. Ding! Maya looked up. Her heart skipped. The same man from yesterday stepped inside again. The killer. He wore the same dark jacket, the same baseball cap. His friend followed behind him. They walked casually through the aisles, like normal customers. But Maya knew better. Her breathing slowed, her mind focused. She couldn't panic. She couldn't act suspicious. Instead, she quietly stepped away from the register and moved toward the window. Outside, across the street, the same black car was parked again. And the license plate matched perfectly, every number, every letter. Maya's pulse quickened. She quickly pulled out her phone and zoomed into the photo she had taken the night before. Then she looked at the car outside. Confirmed. There was no doubt anymore. These men had killed the Mafia boss's sister. And now, Maya was the only person who knew. The question wasn't whether she should tell the Mafia boss. The question was, how? Because approaching a man like him was not something ordinary people survived. Maya took a slow breath. Her life was about to change, forever. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling while the city outside hummed quietly in the distance. The license plate, the killer's face, the news article. Everything kept replaying in her mind like a broken record. She knew the truth now. The men who walked into her store were responsible for the death of the Mafia boss's sister, and Maya was the only person who had proof. But knowing the truth came with a terrifying question. What was she supposed to do with it? For hours, Maya argued with herself. She could forget everything, delete the photo, pretend she never saw anything. It would be safer, much safer. But every time she thought about doing that, the same image returned. The woman running, the gunshot, the body collapsing onto the pavement. Maya turned onto her side and sighed. Somewhere out there, a family was grieving, and the people responsible were walking around freely. She slowly sat up in bed. Her decision was made. If anyone deserved to know the truth, it was the brother of the woman who died, the Mafia boss. But reaching someone like him wasn't simple. Men like him lived in shadows, protected by layers of security, loyalty, and fear. Ordinary people didn't just knock on their doors. Still, Maya knew one thing. If there was a bounty for information about his sister's murder, then somewhere, someone was collecting tips. She just had to find the right path. The next afternoon, Maya left work early. Instead of going home, she walked through a part of the city she had only heard about before. The financial district slowly gave way to darker streets. Luxury cars, black SUVs, buildings with tinted glass. Everyone seemed to move with purpose, and everyone looked like they belonged to someone powerful. Maya's stomach tightened. She had never been in this world before, but today she was walking straight into it. After asking around cautiously, she finally found what she was looking for. A tall building guarded by two men standing outside the entrance. They wore black suits, dark glasses, the kind of men who looked like they had seen everything and feared nothing. Maya slowed her steps. Her heart pounded in her chest. This was it. If she turned around now, no one would ever know she had come. But if she walked forward, there was no going back. Maya inhaled slowly and stepped toward the entrance. The two guards immediately straightened. One of them raised a hand. "Stop right there." His voice was calm but firm. Maya froze. I need to speak to someone," she said carefully. The guard studied her face. "This isn't a place you just walk into." "I know," Maya replied, "but I have information." The two men exchanged a quick glance. "What kind of information?" the second guard asked. Maya hesitated, and if she said the wrong thing, she might never leave this place. She lowered her voice. "It's about the woman who was killed 2 nights ago." The air around them instantly changed. The guards' expressions hardened. "Where did you hear about that?" one of them asked. "I saw it," Maya answered. Both men went completely still. For a moment, none of them spoke. Then the first guard stepped closer. "You should be very careful with what you say next," Maya swallowed. I saw who did it," she said quietly, "and I have proof." The silence that followed felt heavier than stone. The two guards looked at each other again. Then one of them pulled out a phone. He turned slightly away and spoke quietly into it. Maya couldn't hear what he said, but she could feel the tension growing. After a few seconds, he ended the call and looked back at her. "You're coming inside." The large glass doors opened behind them. Maya's stomach twisted as she stepped into the building. Inside, everything was quiet. Too quiet. The marble floors reflected the dim lights above. Men in suits moved silently through the hallway. Every eye seemed to study her as she walked, like they were trying to figure out whether she belonged here, or whether she was a mistake. The guards led her to an elevator. The doors slid open. They stepped inside. The ride upward felt endless. Each floor they passed made Maya more nervous. Until finally, The elevator stopped. The doors opened slowly. A long hallway stretched ahead. At the end of it stood a large office door. The guards stopped. One of them looked at Maya. "If what you're saying is real," he paused, "you're about to meet a very dangerous man." Maya already knew that. The guard knocked on the door. A voice from inside responded, "Send her in." The door opened. Maya stepped forward, and for the first time, she stood face to face with the Mafia boss, the man whose world she had just stepped into, and the man who was about to hear the truth about his sister. The room was silent. The Mafia boss sat behind his desk, staring at Maya without blinking. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes had shifted. When Maya finished explaining everything, the night she witnessed the murder, the vehicle, the license plate photo, and the man who walked into her store, the office became heavy with tension. For several long seconds, neither of them spoke. Finally, the Mafia boss leaned back slowly in his chair. He reached for the phone on his desk. Without looking away from Maya, he pressed a button. "Bring him in," he said calmly. The call ended. Maya felt her heart beating faster. She had no idea what was about to happen. Minutes later, the office door opened. Two large men in dark suits walked in. The Mafia boss slid Maya's phone across the desk. "Look at the plate number," he said. One of the men studied the image carefully. His face tightened. "That car belongs to the Marconi crew." The room went quiet again. The Marconi crew, a rival gang, one that had been pushing deeper into the Mafia boss's territory over the past year. The Mafia boss slowly nodded. He already suspected them, but suspicion was not proof. Now he had both: evidence, witness, and a name. The man closed Maya's phone and placed it carefully on the desk. "Should we move tonight?" he asked. The Mafia boss stood up slowly. He walked toward the massive window behind his desk. The city stretched out beneath him, millions of lights glowing in the darkness. Somewhere out there, the man who killed his sister was still breathing. For now. The Mafia boss took a slow breath. Then he spoke quietly. "Yes." That single word carried the weight of a storm. 3 nights later, the city woke up to unexpected news. Police reports mentioned a violent confrontation between rival gangs in an abandoned warehouse district. Several arrests were made, but one name stood out among the rumors spreading through the streets. The man responsible for the murder of the Mafia boss's sister had disappeared. Completely. No one knew where he went, no one asked questions, and no one spoke his name again. Justice, in the Mafia boss's world, was rarely loud. It was quiet, final, and permanent. Laintors. 2 weeks passed. Maya returned to her normal routine, working at the convenience store, stocking shelves, serving customers, trying to forget the dangerous world she had briefly stepped into. She had refused the bounty. She had refused the money. She didn't want any part of that life. All she wanted was peace. One evening, as the sun began setting outside, the store door opened. The bell above the entrance rang softly. Maya looked up from the counter and froze. He's standing at the entrance was the Mafia boss. He looked exactly the same. Dark suit, serious expression, power radiating from his presence. The entire store seemed to grow quiet. Customers quickly moved aside. Even the cashier beside Maya stopped talking. The Mafia boss walked slowly toward the counter. Maya felt her stomach twist. "Good evening," he said calmly. His voice was low but clear. Maya nodded nervously. "Good evening." For a moment, neither of them spoke, and then he placed something small on the counter. It was an envelope. Maya immediately shook her head. "I told you, I don't want the reward." The Mafia boss gave a faint smile. "That's not money." Maya hesitated before opening it. Inside was a simple card. An offer. A job. At one of the Mafia boss's legitimate businesses. A corporate office position. Stable salary, benefits, security. Maya looked up, confused. You're offering me a job? The Mafia boss nodded. You risked your life to help a stranger. He paused. In my world, loyalty like that is rare. Maya remained silent. Then he added one more sentence. And people who do the right thing deserve better opportunities. Maya slowly closed the envelope. For the first time since she met him, she smiled. Thank you. The Mafia boss nodded once. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. Just before leaving, he stopped. Without turning around, he spoke one last time. Oh, you did something very brave. Then he walked out. The door closed behind him. And just like that, the most dangerous man in the city disappeared back into the shadows. But this time, he left something behind. A new beginning. For the woman who decided to play detective and changed everything.
If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who believes kindness still exists in this world. This is Midnight Archives, where power meets humanity.